I thought they were going to sue me and take my house or my apartment at the time. I just couldn't fathom what the repercussions could be. And it ended up being totally fine. They got a different composer and did the show. But just be firm in the fact that before you agree to something, you want to know the details.
This is the Faith and Family Filmmakers podcast, helping filmmakers who share a Christian worldview stay in touch, informed, and inspired. Quiet on set. Rolling. Today's host is Jaclyn Witt.
Welcome to the Faith and Family Filmmakers podcast. My name is Jaclyn, and today I have Aaron Fullan with me. Despite his distance from the heart of Hollywood, Aaron Fullan is an actor and composer who is proving to the world that it's possible to pursue big city dreams from small town USA. Above all else, Aaron seeks to honor Jesus Christ with the gifts and talents that he's been given. Glad to have you here, Aaron. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I was looking forward to this.
Yay. All right. So let's back up and where did this all start for you? I mean, there's music, there's acting, and I mean, I've seen some of your stuff, like some of your interviews where you're like, people were telling you pursue one or the other, and you're like, no.
Yes.
So where did that all start?
Midwestern stubbornness, it can really help. I was born and raised here in Iowa, Clinton, Iowa, which is on the eastern nose of Iowa. If you can picture the state of Iowa, there's a little bump out.
I actually cannot picture the state of Iowa. I am Canadian.
Those of you who can picture the state of Iowa, that's where we are.
Okay.
I grew up a few blocks from the mighty Mississippi River, and it's been a unique journey. The Midwest is, as you know, not known for its artistic output as much as the coasts, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew pretty early on that I had an affinity for the arts. I started taking piano lessons in second grade and took them all the way through college. I ended up majoring in music ministry, and I enjoyed making a fool of myself in front of the camera with my brothers, which is
awesome.
how many people start. We had 3 camcorders. I mean, it was technically a camcorder, the kind you put on your shoulder. So, that ages me a little bit.
I remember those.
We would set it up in the corner of our basement, and me and my 2 brothers would reenact scenes from Lord of the Rings and Three Stooges and anything that came to mind. So I loved that as well. But I figured music was a more realistic pursuit. I knew that there were far more actors than there are composers. And so I kind of put that one on the shelf, even though in high school I did drama, and my drama teacher was very encouraging and really encouraged me to pursue acting. But I decided to go the music route. And the night I knew I wanted to do specifically film scoring, I would sit at the piano and compose for hours from a very young age. I always wanted to do the Narnia films. I thought the greatest thing ever would be to score the Narnia films. So when they started coming out in the mid-2000s, I was devastated because they didn't wait for me to score it.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't know your number yet.
Yeah. So I had a lot of love for composing. The night I knew I wanted to go into film composing, regardless of how hard it would be, my dad took me to a John Williams concert in Chicago as a graduation present for my senior year of high school. Credit to my dad. This isn't his passion. It wasn't his passion, but he knew his son and he knew how much it would mean to me. And so we had a really special time. Chicago's about 2.5 hours from here. So we drove out to Chicago, shared a meal together, listened to this John Williams concert, and we had great seats, floor 10 rows back in the middle of the aisle, just had a perfect view of everything. And during the opening song, I literally got emotional and had a thought. I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I think God wants me to do this. And so something was planted that night. Went to college, though, as I said, for music ministry. And after the 4 years, I started working in audio production. And specifically audio dramas. I worked for a company called Heirloom Audio, and they were making audio adaptations of G.A. Henty novels, who was a Victorian writer, wrote adventure stories, and loved that. But again, I wasn't getting into those fields that I specifically thought I was going to, and I had hopes of doing.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like you need to pay your dues. And so, you're willing to start over here so you can get over there.
Yes,
But yeah.
exactly. And it was an invaluable experience. I worked with a bunch of directors, writers, composers, sound designers, and met some of the people that I'm still friends with today, and made lifelong friendships with those people. And that has proven invaluable. And the owner of Heirloom Audio was an entrepreneur, did a lot of different things. So I was freshly married, lived in an apartment, and I think we maybe had our first child. And I just wanted to start in music, and I didn't have the money to buy this stuff back here. So,
Yeah. By the way, for the listeners, that's what we're talking about. It's the studio equipment.
I
He's
just
not pointing
realized.
some like big furniture or something. No, it's the studio equipment.
Yeah, keyboards, speakers,
Yeah,
a
computers,
computer.
all the stuff.
Yes. So I pitched to him. I came up with a pitch and said, if you fund my first studio, which was literally thousands of dollars worth of equipment, I will write music for you, for your commercials and for everything you're doing for free, indefinitely. And he said, all right, go for it. So he funded my first studio, and we put it in the basement below the garage of our apartment building. And I would just go down there at night. My wife would come down, read a book or something, and I would just practice and practice and practice and practice. And things grew, did free gigs and then low paying gigs, and then just started working as everyone does. You start working your way up and getting better and better. And really, practice is everything. I mean, it's so easy to get your eyes set on the end goal, and you just don't have the stamina or the desire to put in the work. So that's my first bit of advice to everybody is, when you have these dreams and you have these goals, your work ethic has to match.
Absolutely.
Those.
Yeah. And I think you have to learn to love the work itself, like the process. You can't just love the outcome. You have to love the work.
So true. And obviously, you need to make money at your career eventually. But I didn't care that I wasn't getting paid in the beginning or very low amounts, because I loved it. And that's how you figure out what your passion is, when you can do it. And maybe you never get paid for it. If you can do something that brings you so much joy, and you feel as the famous Olympian runner said, Eric, is it Liddell or Little? Have you heard of him?
Nope. Don't know him.
Okay.
You can call him whatever you want, and I'm not going to correct you.
The audience is going to know. It's either Eric Little or Liddell, but he was an Olympian runner, and he refused to run on Sunday. That's his big story. The movie Chariots of Fire is about his story. So he always said, when I run, I can feel God's smile. And that's the same idea of whatever your passion is. You can tell it is such an invigorating and rewarding thing to do.
It's true.
So that was music for me.
Yeah.
And then I'll skip a lot of the details, but just ended up pretty sold on the music side of things. But it's been difficult because we love the Midwest here in the USA. Did not want to go to either of the coasts or Nashville, Atlanta. We really kind of decided to stay planted here. We both have family in this area. So that's been a challenge, trying to network, trying to find work when you can't, go down the street to a coffee shop and network like you would like to.
Yeah. No, I hear you. We live in Mexico, and we're the only ones where we are that do what we do.
Yes. So you got to be very intentional. And that was one thing I was very intentional about, is reaching out, doing what I can from where I'm at. And the first big connection I made was a cold outreach on LinkedIn. And it was, I mentioned Narnia earlier in the podcast. It was the music supervisor for the Narnia films. He was the head of music for Walden Media, which made a bunch of the classics back in the mid-2000s, like Charlotte's Web and City of Ember and the Narnia films and Journey to the Center of the Earth. They were kind of the family-friendly. They partnered with a lot of the major studios, Disney being one of them. So I reached out to him and sent him some of my music and just said, hey, I am trying to connect with people in the industry, such as yourself. I'm from the middle of nowhere, but I don't want to waste my time on something that I don't have a chance at. I am one of those people that I prefer if someone was honest with me, so I can move. I've seen too many of those American Idol auditions where they try it and they're awful.
I'm
and
amazing.
Yes,
like
my family.
You don't know.
Yes, my family and friends always told me I was incredible. I'm like, nah.
Yeah, your family and friends were horrible to you.
Exactly. So I wanted that. I wanted it in the clear. If I can do this, I want to go for it. If I can't, I don't want to waste my time. And he responded and said, I think you have potential. I love working with young composers. Let's stay in touch. And to this day, we still stay in touch. He is kind of an unofficial rep for me. He has negotiated on my behalf. He has referred me. I've since been out to California to meet him, and it's been incredible. So I encourage everyone, make those connections, keep those connections. You don't want to use people when people help you and help you get your foot in the door. One great piece of advice I received was always look how you can serve others that are serving you. You may feel like you don't have anything to offer to people that you're looking up to and asking things of, but offering to do, help in any way you can with something, whether it be promote something for them or give feedback on something, whatever it may be, just offer. Because a lot of people are pouring into people and then are just being drained and then left to dry. And that's just not healthy.
Yeah. No. And, I do like also that when you approached him, you had something to present to him. It wasn't just like, hey, I want to do this, and you hadn't done any preparation. Like, you actually went through the years of training. You had something to be able to say to him, can you please look at this? Like, you brought your best, and then you asked him to give you his opinion. Yeah. And I think that's a big difference than if you kind of just, let's say it's your first draft of something and, maybe it's got potential, but like you haven't really brought it to the fullness that it could be. If you ask somebody to give you their opinion on that, you could probably get a very different answer. And so I think also coming prepared for that question, that's an important piece of the puzzle in order to get something that's accurate said back to you.
Yes. Put your best foot forward when you are presenting to people that you want to impress. Don't give something that's almost there. Make sure it's your very best. So this is an important part of my story because this is something that I learned through this scenario that was very, very hard, but shaped how I've navigated my career since then.
When we put together the meetups, we wanted to be very strategic with the approach, thinking about the obstacles. Where are those things that would actually make the greatest impact?
I just wanted to say thank you, Jaclyn. You guys having everything so organized. I went on the website last week. I was able to sign up. All the instructions worked. Everything was seamless. And I have not had an experience where it's been this seamless ever. Also, I've already met some amazing people on this. And I love the format. You teach us a little bit, and then we go into a separate group with just a few people. It takes away some of the anxiety if anybody has anxiety about speaking in a large group. And also, I've gotten to really know people beyond just that's your name and your face. And some people I knew already, which is also great because there's so many people here from the industry that just have amazing experience in all areas. I've met writers, I've met actors, I've met producers. Today, I was with somebody in a room who actually does editing, and that was such a great perspective.
Join us on Thursday mornings for our FAF Association meetings. We've got networking opportunities, masterminds, and more. Find the schedule on our homepage at faffassociation.com or find the link in our show notes.
2017, I was offered what was being told to me, like my breakout moment. And it was for one of the major studios. I've been vague with the details intentionally just because that it's not the important part of the story.
Right.
And because of how it went down and that it did end, better than I would have thought, there's no reason to rehash all of the details. But for the sake of just understanding how big of an opportunity this was for me, it was one of the major studios. They were doing a television series reboot, and this music supervisor I just told you about put me forward as a potential composer. And one of the executives at the studio went to bat for me and put me in the front running of the composers being considered.
Wow.
Which, again, out of the blue. I did not have an agent. I did not have the credits to really substantiate my presence even in that lineup. But I got down, we demoed for the project. So a few composers who were in the running wrote demos specifically for this show. And then they narrowed it down. We all spoke to the director. And sure enough, I remember waking up one morning to an email from the producer that they had chosen me to be the composer.
Wow.
And I just thought, this is incredible. This is how it happens. One night you're sitting in your apartment and struggling to make ends meet, and then you get this opportunity, and then it's all uphill from there.
Yeah.
And that was not the case. So I don't even remember the timeline, for a decent amount of time, they didn't want me reading the script because it was very a hush-hush thing. They wanted to keep everything under wraps. And so when I asked to see a script, they just said, well, if it's content you're worried about, think Indiana Jones. And I was like, okay, well, I'd probably score Indiana Jones. So I didn't push it. And then literally about 2 or 3 weeks before I was supposed to start scoring it, they sent me the script. And it was 10 episodes. And I got to the 7th episode and was seeing something I just couldn't. I knew I couldn't do this project anymore based on the content of what was in the show. And that feeling of my stomach dropping.
Yes.
I felt sick. And, I had signed a contract. I was in. So I went to my wife and I showed her the script, and she looked at it and she was like, yeah, you can't do this. And longest night of my life, because I sat down, wrote an email to the producer ASAP and explained, look, I'm a Christian. This, some of the content in here just makes me very uncomfortable. And
also because music is supposed to make you sympathetic to the story and the characters. So your job is not just to create music for a show. Your job is to draw people into the story and perspective and everything that's happening. Your job is to engage with the emotions of the audience.
It's true. And to accurately convey those. Yes.
Yeah.
So, and that's a topic of conversation. Many people would justify, I would say there are some outspoken Christians in Hollywood that have made some choices that I think I don't understand how they can justify those things in their minds. Some of the things they choose to portray on screen. And some people say, well, it's just like any other job. It's your job. It's not what what you actually believe or what you would actually do. But I think acting specifically is a very different animal in that regard.
Yeah.
So something to talk about if we want to address that. But all to say, I was not going to do it. I knew it would not be honoring to my creator and the one who gave me the talent in the first place. So went to bed, very restless night.
Yeah, I bet.
And woke up the next morning. They seemed okay. They just said, if you haven't cashed any money from this opportunity yet, it should be clean and good to go and not messy.
Right, yeah.
But then I got a call from the music supervisor and he was like, what are you doing? And then I explained it to him and he said, well, I don't agree with why you're, the decision you're making, but I can respect the fact that you're standing on your principles.
Well, that's something.
Yeah, it was. It was huge. And I'm still friends with this person today. But then he said, you need to call the executive at the studio and he really went to bat for you. So you need to have a frank conversation with him. So anyway, it was just a very difficult situation. And I realized at that time, and I would say this to anybody who's listening, don't be afraid to say from the get-go, I need to know the story and I need to see a script before I officially sign on.
Mm-hmm.
It ended up being okay as far as I thought they were going to sue me and take my house or my apartment at the time. I couldn't fathom what the repercussions could be. And it ended up being totally fine. They got a different composer and did the show. But just be firm
Right.
in the fact that before you agree to something, you want to know the details.
Yeah.
So that's been an important lesson I have learned from that.
Yes.
And that was the big, an opportunity of that magnitude has not presented itself to date. And that's okay. I still am very glad I made the decision I made that day. I think I would always have looked back and thought, why did I do that?
Yeah.
I just did it because I wanted to be a Hollywood composer.
Yeah.
So stand firm.
Yeah. I think listening to your story, you had one really, really difficult night of sleep. But if you had gone through with it, it might be harder to sleep at night for a long time.
So true. I think I would still be thinking back. And once your credit is on something, those stay.
Yeah.
That is another thing that you need to be aware of. It's not just that couple weeks of being in a theater or on a popular streaming service. It's there. So I did part-time jobs trying to balance with a career in entertainment.
Right.
And then summer of 2020 is when I got into acting. I was looking around for a music agent because negotiating is the worst thing ever. I'm convinced the worst thing. And I've talked to other composers who disagree. They actually like the art of negotiation. I hate
not me
the money
either.
aspect. It's just
tell me what to do and I'll do it, and you make sure that I can eat,
Yes, exactly. It just feels icky. I don't like it. So I was really tired of trying to negotiate myself. And so I wanted a middle person. So I was looking for an agent. And Jean Wenger, who's talent agent.
Treasure Coast Talent, yeah.
Treasure Coast Talent. I reached out to her because she was literally the only one that I knew was representing Christian artists of any kind. I knew she was representing actors, solely. So looking back, it was a little naive of me to even reach out and propose that. But she was very gracious and she said, well, I don't represent composers at this time, but feel free to keep in touch. And maybe when the agency grows even more, we'll have a wing or a section for composers. But I moved on. And then a few months later, she reached out to me. And I think she I've been meaning to clarify this portion of the story, but I think she must have started seeing some of my social media content after that initial correspondence. And she reached out to me via email and said, I've been seeing some of your stuff and I think you have acting potential. Have you ever thought about acting? And all of a sudden,
you're like, have I?
Yes, exactly. So 30-year-old me was remembering 14-year-old me, 15, 16, my high school years. And I was thinking, oh my word. Yes, I am actually. And so she said, well, why don't you audition for me? I've got a film I'm helping cast right now. I'll send you a role. You audition, see what you can do with it, and we'll go from there. So I did. I auditioned. She said shortly thereafter, yep, I'll sign you. And yet another big dream come true moment for me was jumping into the acting sphere and doing it for pay, which was crazy. So the very first thing, literally probably 2 or 3 weeks after I signed with Jean, I landed my first commercial with Samaritan's Purse and did their Operation Christmas Child commercial for that year. So flew out to Boone, North Carolina, got on set, worked with an amazing crew, and I got the bug right then and there. All of you who have been on a film set who love this industry, you know what I'm talking about. There's just something, it's a spark, it's a flame that just ignites once you experience it. So that was my first foray into it and loved it. And so since then, in many peaks and valleys, I've been navigating a career as both a composer and an actor.
Fantastic. So I think that's a great place to actually finish out this portion of the interview. I'm looking forward to talking with you again in the next portion. But yeah, this has been fantastic. I know from growing up in a small town in Canada, and obviously not just the film industry, but music, like just arts in general was something I wanted to pursue, but it's very difficult to pursue that in Canada. We just don't have the same kind of outlets and opportunities as in the United States. And so I didn't know if I would ever end up getting there. And so, yeah, like I can totally relate to that journey of being in the wrong place, but having this drive and this, I'm doing it anyways. I don't care if I get paid.
Yes. So
Yeah.
relatable.
Yeah. There's probably a lot of people like that.
I'm guessing.
All right. So we'll talk to you again in the next episode and get to know you even more.
Thanks for listening to the Faith and Family Filmmakers podcast. If you've been enjoying this podcast, take a moment to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast player so you don't miss an episode. And if you'd like to support the production of this podcast, you can leave a tip at faffpodcast.com/support. Bringing filmmakers together for faith and family.